Oh, advance. More mics, huh? Jeez.
Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Thank you, Ma. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
All right. Today we're reading from the 5th canto, 13th chapter, entitled Further Talks Between King Mahugana and Jadalbharat, text number 4. It's a little loud. Nivasa, Toya, Javinatma, Buddhis, Tatas, Tato, Davati, Bo Atavyam, Kvachit, Cha, Vatyotita, Pangsu, Dhumra, Disho, Najanati, Rajasvalakshaha, Nivasatoya Javanatma Buddhis, Tatastato Dhavati Bo Atavyam, Prachichavatyo Titapangsu Dhumra, Disho Najanati Rajasvalakshaha, Nivasatoya Javanatma Buddhis, Tatastato Dhavati Bo Atavyam, Prachichavatyo Titapangsu Dhumra, Disho Najanati Rajasvalakshaha, Nivasatoya Javanatma Buddhis, Tatastato Dhavati Bo Atavyam, Prachichavatyo Titapangsu Dhumra, Disho Najanati Rajasvalakshaha.
Davati Boa Vyavyam. Yashona Jantir Jasvalakshaha. Jantir Jasvalakshaha. Asato Davati Bhavatavyam. Yashona Janatir Jasvalakshaha. Anyone from Zoom? Okay.
Bhagavatoya Dabhinatma Buddhis,
Nivasatoya Divyatma Buddhis,
Tatastato Davati Bo Atmayam,
Tatastato Davati Bhavatavyam,
Kachicha Matotitha Pamshu Dhumra, Disho Najanati Rajas Balaksha.
Nivasa, residential place. Toya, water. Dravina, wealth. Atma Buddhi, who considers these things the Atma or self. Tatatataha, here and there. Davati, he runs. Boho, O king, atavyam, on that forest path of material existence. Kvachicha, and sometimes, vatya, by the whirlwind, utita, raised, pamsu, by dust, dumraha, appear smoke-colored, disha, the directions, na, not, janati, knows, rajavala akshaha, whose eyes are covered by the dust of the wind, or who is captivated by his wife during her menstrual period. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, HG Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My dear king, the merchant on the forest path of the material world, his intelligence victimized by home, wealth, relatives, and so forth, runs from one place to another in search of success. Sometimes his eyes are covered by the dust of a whirlwind, that is to say, in his lust he is captivated by the beauty of his wife, especially during her menstrual period. Thus his eyes are blinded, and he cannot see where to go or what he is doing. Purport. It is said that household attraction resides in the wife, because sex is the center of household life. Yan maitu nadi grihamedi sukham hi tucham. A materialistic person, making his wife the center of attraction, works very hard day and night. His only enjoyment in material life is sexual intercourse. Therefore, karmis are attracted to women as friends or wives. Indeed, they cannot work without sex. Under the circumstances, the wife is compared to a whirlwind, especially during her menstrual period. Those who strictly follow the rules and regulations of householder life engage in sex only once a month, at the end of the menstrual period. As one looks forward to this opportunity, his eyes are overwhelmed by the beauty of his wife. Thus it is said that the whirlwind covers the eyes with dust. Such a lusty person does not know that all his material activities are being observed by different demigods, especially the sun god, and are being recorded for the karma of one's next body. Astrological calculations are called Jyoti Shastra, because of the Jyoti, or effulgence, in the material world comes from the different stars and planets. And the science is called Jyoti Shastra, the science of the luminaries. By the calculation of Jyoti, our future is indicated. In other words, all the luminaries, the stars, sun, and moon, witness the activities of the conditioned soul. Thus, he is awarded a particular type of body. A lusty person whose eyes are covered by the dust of the whirlwind of material existence does not at all consider that his activities are being observed by different stars and planets and are being recorded. Not knowing this, the conditioned soul commits all kinds of sinful activities for the satisfaction of his lusty desires. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. My dear king, the merchant on the forest path of the material world, his intelligence victimized by home, wealth, relatives, and so forth, runs from one place to another in search of success. Sometimes his eyes are covered by the dust of a whirlwind. That is to say, in his lust, he is captivated by the beauty of his wife, especially during her menstrual period. Thus his eyes are blinded, and he cannot see where to go or what he is doing. When I was preparing for this class, I had a nightmare. And in my nightmare, it was in the temple room like this. And some Mataji, she came to me and she was asking questions. And when I looked up, I remembered this verse, and all the devotees here, they were looking at me like, what are you doing? When I looked down, my cloth, it was white. I was thinking, oh, what's going on here? So I woke up. So what is the right age to go to school? 55 or 5? What is the right age to go to school? Anytime. You can always learn at age 55. You can be admitted to school and go to a university if you like, or get a high school diploma at age 55. That's good because in a sense we're always students, we're always learning. But generally the best time is 5. When I was going to a community college, I was probably like 20 something. And I had some classmates that were very in their old age. And I was thinking, I didn't know why they were going to school that late. And Srila Prabhupada, he says, therefore, as soon as possible, spiritual education should begin immediately. And what is the first lesson? Chanakya Pandit says, Matrivat paradareshu paradravyeshu lostravat. This means that we should see all women as mother and others' property as garbage in the street. If children are taught in this way, they can actually get rid of lusty desires when they see women. The earlier you start, the longer you have time to learn more, to apply it in your life, and to actually develop it, and you can become perfect. The shorter time you have available, the lesser the likelihood of you attaining success in that field. Just like that saying, you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. It becomes very hard to change your ways, to change your thoughts, to change your beliefs, to change your attitude, to change your lifestyle, and to change your practices. And Srila Prabhupada, he tells this story of a musician. This musician, he wanted to be admitted to the most exclusive music school. He waited for years to be admitted. And finally, they told him the price for tuition, twice the normal fee. So he objected, and referring to his application form, he tried to prove that he had studied at many other music academies and therefore should be granted free tuition. The representative from the music school replied that they had carefully considered his extensive previous music education, and that's why they determined his tuition as twice as the normal amount. First, the representative said, "We must impel you to forget everything about music you have learned thus far, and then we shall teach you music properly. Since this task is double, the tuition is double." Just like when devotees, when they come to the Hare Krishna movement, they have their own ideas, their philosophies. So it's very hard to break away from those ideas. And Srila Prabhupada, he says that human life is meant for tapasya. And tapasya is defined as voluntarily accepting inconveniences. Just like when you're in a hurry and the light turns red, you can't go. So you have to wait a few times. And Prabhupada says that that's the difference between humans and animals. When a human crosses that red light, he can get fined for it. He breaks the law. Whereas an animal, if he crosses the road and it's red, nobody cares because he's an animal. And the beginning of tapasya is brahmacarya, celibacy, no sex life. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, it says, tapasā brahmacaryeṇa śamena cha damena cha tyāgena satya-śaucābhyāṁ yamena niyamena va. To concentrate the mind, one must observe a life of celibacy and not fall down. One must undergo the austerity of voluntarily giving up sense enjoyment. One must then control the mind and senses, give charity, be truthful, clean and non-violent. Follow the regulative principles and regularly chant the holy name of the Lord. So anyone who is taught from the beginning of life celibacy, then at a young age he can control. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 7th canto, Narada Muni instructs, a brahmachari should be very careful not to mix with women or with men addicted to women. A brahmachari should be very careful in associating with men who are attached to women. I went to visit my friends before I moved into the temple. And whatever they were speaking about, it was just purely about women. And this person was married. So I was thinking, oh, how degraded it is. So then I stopped coming over. So this is the beginning of civilization. And civilization does not mean constructing big skyscrapers. It doesn't mean fancy new gadgets, new high-tech computers, no. Real civilization means tapasya, divine austerity. And this tapasya begins with brahmacharya life, learning to control the senses. That is the beginning of life. The unlimited, unrestricted sex life like dogs and hogs, that is not civilization. And that's what we see in the world today. And those who have been initiated, we take 4 vows. And one of those vows is no illicit sex. So tapasya means even if I am attracted or agitated, I shall not do this. Because I have taken this vow before the deity, this promise before the deity, before the fire, before the spiritual master, and before the assembled Vaishnavas, that I'll not have illicit sex. That is promised. So how can I break it? I have taken a vow before the deity, before the fire, before the spiritual master, before the Vaishnavas. No illicit sex, no meat eating, no drinking or intoxication, no gambling. I have promised this. So if I'm a gentleman, how can I break this promise? This is tapasya. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was a sannyasi, and he said, even if I see a doll made out of wood, a beautiful woman, my mind becomes agitated. This is Krishna. And he's saying that his mind becomes agitated even in the form of a doll. So what to speak of us? We should not think we're so advanced that, I won't get agitated if I see a young lady. Dhiras tatra namuyate. There are 2 classes of men, dhira and adhira. Dhira means one who is sober-minded. So even if there is cause of agitation, still he remains firm. He is called dhira, undisturbed. Vishvam purna sukhayate. The whole world is disturbed, agitated with so many problems. But for a devotee, there is no problem. And adhira means as soon as there is cause of agitation, he becomes a victim. That is called adhira. And I have experienced this myself. When you're out on Sankirtan, you see how many miserable people there are. They are worrying about their rent, they're worrying about their job, they're worrying if there's food in their refrigerator, they're worried about their relationships and so on. Their mind is always disturbed. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Or sometimes Srila Prabhupada would say collecting. I remember in the early days when Balboa Park, they were letting us to set up in the main road. I said, hey guys, these books, they help you with anger. And this family, the man, he turned back immediately and he came to my table. He said, how did you know I have problems with anger? So I laughed and I said, everyone has these problems. So I was introducing the books to him, and he got a few of our books actually, and gave a donation. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions this verse, Yanmai tunadi grihamedi sukham hitucham. So grihamedi means one who does not know what is the aim of life. He lives with his family, his wife and children, but he doesn't have responsibilities. Just like materialists, they think that sexual indulgence is the greatest happiness in this material world, and therefore they make elaborate plans to satisfy their senses, especially the genitals. Grihamedi and grihasta. And grihasta means, although he is living with wife and children, he knows what is the aim of life. That is grihasta ashram. So one should know the purpose of marriage is to beget children, and the purpose of begetting children is to raise them Krishna conscious. That is grihasta ashram. And there is a saying, practice makes perfect. Has anyone heard of this? But then there is another saying, practice does not make perfect. Only perfect practice makes perfect. So just like if someone is performing puja or arti, and he's unclean, he's not following the regulative principles, he may be practicing it, but it's not perfect. First, we practice something regularly. it becomes a permanent habit. And permanence is about forming habits. Second, a regular practice habit permanently changes the neurological circuits in our brain. For example, waking up in the morning. Many of us have a hard time with that. So those who have time schedules for school, for work, know how important rising in the morning is. Therefore, there are alarm clocks, someone to wake us up, or if you're old-fashioned, a rooster to crow to tell us it's time to wake up. In the Philippines, I was a village boy, and we had roosters. Right before the sunrise, the rooster would crow, wake us up. And it was nice, so it was time to get ready. And I remember when I started sleeping in the temple, I would hear different devotees' alarm clocks going off around 4 a.m. And I always liked waking up before the alarm so I can check to see if it's close to 4 to hear the music happen. So this was what would happen. I was staying in the room with Raju Mohan and Jamal. So Jamal's alarm would go off, and then Raju Mohan, and I would hear another alarm from Damodar Kumar, and then Mukunda. It would go off different times. And if we knew someone did not set their alarm, we would kindly knock on their door to wake them up. And we would all be on time for Mangal Arti. It was nice. I liked it. So we should implement this again for the brahmacharis. And this habit of waking up early is also important in spiritual life. It is considered auspicious. The earlier we wake up, the more services we can do, the more extra chants, rounds we can chant, and work we can finish throughout the day. And my spiritual master, His Holiness Badrinaran Maharaj, he is here in the temple room as early as 3 a.m. chanting japa. And Maharaj has been practicing rising very early throughout his life, and now it becomes easy for him to just get ready. I used to wake up at 4 a.m., but then I noticed that the bathrooms would be chaotic. The showers are taken, I can't brush my teeth, all the sinks are taken. So I was thinking, how can I solve this? So I wanted to start earlier. Then I started waking up at 3:45. And when I used to wake up at 3:45, I was able to chant at least 7 rounds before Mangal Arti. That's when I had a realization. If I wake up earlier, I can chant even more rounds. Then I started waking up at 3 a.m. And still 3 a.m. was not early enough. So I wake up now at 2:30. I set my alarm at 2:30. And I'm able to chant 90% of my 16 rounds. And I can chant with my spiritual master. So I consider myself to be very fortunate. Now many disciples, they have the opportunity to get instructions from their Gurudev, and they are unable to chant with them personally. So I consider myself very fortunate. So I've been waking up around 2:30 for over a year now. And I don't see it as an austerity. When my alarm clock goes off, it's time to get ready and to greet Shri Shri Radha Giridhari. And I don't have second thoughts whether I should get an extra 10 or 15 minutes of sleep. No, I just wake up. So this idea of practice makes permanent. Whatever we do in this life, it prepares us for the next life. And if our consciousness is absorbed in thinking of Krishna, it becomes that much easier to think of Krishna at the time of death. And there's a very vivid description that I would like to share. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Parikshit, he saw a lower caste Shudra dressed as a king, and he was beating a cow and a bull with the club. The bull was standing on one leg, indicates that the principles of religion are gradually diminishing. The cow was now rendered poor and calfless. Her legs were being beaten by a Shudra. There were tears in her eyes, and she was distressed and weak. She was hankering after some grass in the field. The bull is the personality of religion, and the cow is a personality of earth. In the age of Satya Yuga, truthfulness, your 4 legs were established by the 4 principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that 3 of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication. You are now standing on 1 leg only, which is your truthfulness, and you are somehow or other hobbling along. But quarrel, personified Kali, flourishing by deceit, is also trying to destroy that leg. Maharaj Parikshit, well equipped with arrows and bow and seated on a gold-embossed chariot, spoke to him, the Shudra, with a deep voice sounding like thunder. And Maharaj Parikshit, who could fight 1,000 enemies single-handedly, thus pacified the personality of religion and the earth. Then he took up his sharp sword to kill the personality of Kali, who is the cause of irreligion. And Srila Prabhupada made this point that 5,000 years ago, nobody would see that. Slaughtering cows or bulls. That's how pure the kingdom was. When the personality of Kali understood that the king was ready and willing to kill him, he at once abandoned the dress of a king and under pressure of fear completely surrendered to him, bowing his head. The king thus spoke, "Who have inherited the fame of Arjuna. Therefore, since you have surrendered yourself with folded hands, you need not fear for your life, for you cannot remain in my kingdom. For you are the friend of irreligion." So Kali, he said, "Therefore, O chief among the protectors of religion, please fix me some places for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government." So Maharaj Parikshit, being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. The personality of Kali asked for something more, and because of his begging, the king gave him permission to live where there is gold. Because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity. And Srila Prabhupada, he writes that illicit sex life, meat eating, intoxicant, and gambling, these are the 4 pillars of sinful life. So by pride, the resulting action of austerity is spoiled. By too much affection for female association, cleanliness is spoiled. By too much addiction to intoxication, mercy is spoiled. And by too much lying propaganda, truthfulness is spoiled. So pride destroys austerity. Everyone is falsely thinking they know everything, so there is no need for endeavoring in spiritual life. And everybody likes to say this, live life to the fullest. Enjoy as much as you can. And too much affection for female association destroys cleanliness. Clubs, bars, these places are generally filthy. There is vomit, barbarian behavior, and degraded and falling class of people. And addiction to intoxication destroys mercy. I had a friend, he was addicted to heroin. So he had a lot of bad qualities. And people will almost do anything to chase that high, which includes cheating, killing, or even slaving for alcohol or drugs. They ruin their lives, and they also ruin other people's lives. And lying propaganda destroys truthfulness. The blind leading the blind. The leaders of the world do not know what is our best interest, but they are speaking like they know. They do not know that the goal of life is Krishna. And if we look around, where do we live? We're surrounded by these 4 places. Gambling in the form of casinos, alcohol being served at every corner, prostitution personified as Las Vegas. When I went to Vegas, I would see these poor old ladies. They would be distributing little cards to I don't know how to say it, gentlemen clubs. And they don't even know what they're doing. And places where meat is served are easily accessible to the public. So this is Kali Yuga. Actually, these can also be found in homes. Advertisement commercials create a curiosity to the young generation, and they want to experience it. Another important factor is peer pressure. I remember in high school, I was at my friend's house. I've never drank alcohol before. So he poured a glass of Bacardi and Sunny Delight. He said, try this. And I knew it was wrong, but I didn't want to seem like a loser, so I did it. So peer pressure. And in the purport, it says, thus his eyes are blinded and he cannot see where to go or what he's doing. Where I used to work, they did this event, because I used to work in memory care, Alzheimer's and dementia residents. And so they wanted us to experience how these people would feel. So what they did was they put pebbles in our shoe. They would put these goggles on and the lenses were blurred and they made us wear headphones. So according to them, this is how they would see the world. A distorted reality. My feet felt uncomfortable. I couldn't hear properly and I couldn't see what was in front of me. Actually, while everyone was standing and experiencing the difficulties, I stayed in my seat and I just chanted, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Nama, Hare Hare. Someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, you're the only one who looks very comfortable. So I told them, even if you have these difficulties or these disadvantages, so I was trying to preach Krishna consciousness. At home you can simply just chant. In conclusion, Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas have given us the means on how to live happily in this world, how to handle difficulties in life, and we know the process of obtaining the goal of life. So we should be merciful to others and also give them this priceless gift in the form of books, in chanting the holy names, hearing the holy names, and by giving them our association. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, O my Lord, persons who are bereft of all auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate, and are also bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little while. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, the Lord's pure devotees, however, take compassion upon such unfortunate persons, and in a missionary spirit, try to persuade them into the line of devotional service. Only by the grace of pure devotees can such unfortunate men be elevated to the position of transcendental service, making the unfortunate fortunate. I met this lady and her mom in La Jolla Cove. They're from Iran. And they showed up for Dravida Prabhu's Bhagavad Gita class. They showed up for the Sunday feast. They also showed up for the Krishna lounge. And the daughter, she was telling me, she just came back from work. And she was telling her mom, I'm going to go to the temple. And the mom, she said, let's go. She was so enthusiastic. She likes the chanting. She likes seeing the young people being very enthusiastic to, you can say, come to the temple to perform devotional service. So she really liked it. And she got Bhagavad Gita. She got a few other books. And she was here last night. And I told her, thank you for coming. And she said, I love coming here. And then she also said, I'll see you on Sunday. So she's been coming here regularly. And I asked her, what made you, keep coming back? And she said, thank you for the opportunity to come to your temple. And I like how the devotees treat each other. She sees that we're all kind to each other. We're not trying to exploit one another. So she was very appreciative of our Krishna conscious movement. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any questions, comments? Yes, Pravira.
This is just something that came to mind as you were running through the different four good things that have disappeared in Kali Yuga: austerity, cleanliness, mercy, truthfulness. For a long time, I was a little puzzled because we have Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. The names of the different yugas. And Treta means third, and Dwapara means two. So I said, well, why isn't Dwapara second, isn't it? And then I learned, you may know this, that what that Treta and Dwapara indicate is that Treta means there were 3 of these things left. Dwapara means there's 2 of these things left of the 4. And in Kali Yuga, I think you mentioned that the truthfulness is the last leg. And it's remarkable in my short lifetime, I mean, compared to the age of Kali Yuga, this truthfulness has become under attack. The internet is a great engine of lying, making people believe things that aren't true. And practically, it's impossible to, if you're fortunate, you come in touch with the Hare Krishna movement through the internet or somehow other, and you get the real truth. Otherwise, it's just untruth, lies everywhere. The big lie and smaller lies and all kinds of lies. So you can see it like that. But that's so Treta means that there's 3 of them. I'm not sure which one goes first, austerity. And then Dwapara means there's only 2 left, and Kali is one is left and it's disappearing. Haribol.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Govardhan. Very nice. Very fluid up there. You're shifting into higher gears up on the Vyasa-san. It's very nice listening to you speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple quick reflections, and I did have a question. I think only you, maybe one other person, could smile so nicely before they talked about a nightmare they had. It was a great introduction to what was a bad dream, but it was great how you introduced it and handled that very nicely. It's really great when we're having dreams about spiritual life and being in the temple and being with elevated souls. It's happening more and more now that I live here, and I really like those dreams. They're so much better than I'll take a devotional nightmare before the best mundane dream. The second is, you mentioned about in the very beginning of the, I think it was either the purport or you're talking about we should see all women as Mataji starting from the age 5, but then you said garbage in the street.
Others' property as garbage in the street.
Others' property as garbage in the street.
Steal.
And then when I was in school and I was in a class, a criminal justice class that was primarily training future police officers, they had this thing he would say, he'd always go, what are the 4 things that'll get you fired? What are the 4 things that'll get you fired? And the acronym is GULP. Greed, anger, lust, and peer group pressure is the 4th. So we talked about greed, anger, lust a lot here. But that's cool that you talked about with that alcohol story, the peer group pressure. It's very powerful. So greed, anger, lust, and peer pressure will get you fired, at least from the police force, maybe monastic life. And he would always say, what are the 4 things that get you fired? And we'd repeat it back. And he'd go, and which one's a freight train coming at you? Lust. So that goes to the... And then my reflection, or my question is, we so often hear, because the scriptures and the instructions seem mostly to be coming from men speaking to other men. So we talk about women as the object of agitation in terms of lust. Could we very easily, if you were a woman reading the scriptures, just invert that and just use men in place of women when you hear about instructions about lust, or is that not as applicable? Can a woman think of a man when we hear instructions about men for a woman? What are they meant to do when they're learning about these same topics?
That's mentioned in Kapila Dev, I think, that the men see the women as dangerous to freely associate with, and women should see the men as the same thing. It's mentioned in the Shastra. I'll try to find the verse for you. But it's especially it's emphasized. The men are the ones that take sannyas and so forth. The women generally are housebound. They have the children to take care of. But I was just thinking, we have such many prominent women in this Bhagavatam. You have Queen Kunti, who Srila Prabhupada loved those prayers, and he would chant them, he would preach on them. And of course, Devahuti, who's Kapila's mother. And she's the recipient and, great devotee, and she's asked very cogent questions and so forth. So they're fully represented. Many others too.
And Srila Prabhupada, he advised the Matajis to see men as sons. And Prabhupada was saying they're introducing this new thing of, instead of calling ladies Matajis, they would call them as sisters. But Prabhupada didn't approve of this. Yeah. Okay. And about my dream, Maharaj was telling me he also had a dream that I guess he was getting married or something, and he was asking, where my Prabhu is he? where my Prabhus, tell me I'm making a big mistake. So in that dream, I was looking at Balaram, I was looking at Mogalila, I was thinking, why aren't they stopping me? So when I looked down and I saw I was wearing white again, I was thinking, oh man, this is the cause of a fall down. So anyway, that's something.
Remember when you took initiation and Maharaj said your instruction was to care for the devotees? We got to make sure we care for you too, Prabhu.
Yeah. Thank you for your time and attention. I'll go to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice class. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Oh.